Hello and good afternoon from Dhaka, Bangladesh, where we are very proud to be speaking from the third iteration of Bay of Bengal Conversation, which is being held by or organized by Center for Government Studies, CGS. Today, the third iteration of BOBC is aptly titled, again, A Fractured World. And this is very topical, and this is also symptomatic of the ongoing tensions where there is a rise of despotism, rise of autocratic tendencies, not only in developing countries, but also in developed countries which were formerly considered as bastions of democracy. And recently, the election of Donald Trump in the United States of America and the rise of the far right in European countries, which were known for their commitment to liberal humanism, also puts into question what would be the fate of democracy. So this is probably ties in with today's discussion, which is of critical importance. So today's topic is democracy under construction, ensuring progress and inclusivity. I am Parvez Karim Abbasi, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, East West University, and Senior Research Fellow for Center for Governance Studies, CGS. And it gives me immense pride and satisfaction to include two very distinguished speakers. We have all the way from Malaysia, Datuk Zuraida Kamaruddin, former Finance Minister of Plantation and Commodities. And we also have Professor Mahbubur Rahman, Department of Political Science and Sociology, North-South University. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
All right. So we will start with the Datuk herself. Minister, it is again, when we talk about democracy, one of the challenges that one faces with democracy is also female empowerment. And though the female constitute around 50% or more of the population around the world, we see that again, female are not adequately represented, which makes for, what would I say, not sound or not sustainable democratic foundations. Yeah. So what is your experience as a long-term politician and also as a female activist? And again, what would your experience tell you about the challenges of female inclusivity and specifically for the Malaysian context? So for the next 5 minutes, we'll listen to you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, my panel partner here. First of all, I'd like to thank CGS for inviting me for this very esteemed conversation session with Bengal. Yeah. So I think talking about women empowerment, it comes from a long way, because when I started as a corporate person, so in the corporate sector where you are being assessed by a performance, is by merit, you see. So until then I went into politics, and I understand the needs for us to open doors and leading the women to be more empowered, to be more daring, to come to the front. Because I realized that any country that wants to go for full development, progress, they need, in nation building, they need the participation of women and also the contribution of women. Because women, like you said, is 50% of the population of the world now. So therefore, and they are also equally competent. Not all men are clever and not all women are not clever, you see? And not all men, all men are clever, okay? So vice versa. So therefore, there is elements in women where we can capitalize, where we can get input from them to improve the situation of the country. So, but it's the women nature that they are not, I used to say that they don't know how to sell themselves, okay? But the man is very good at selling themselves, yeah, Mr. Psychology. The man is very good at selling themselves. So therefore, there must be some kind of system, a structured system where we empower women through proper structured mechanism where they are allowed to be given a chance to get the equal opportunities. I'm not talking about equal rights, equal opportunities, because they are not given the equal opportunities to come to the front. So when I was a minister, so when I was in the political party also, I was a women leader and so on and so forth. So I make sure that these women, when they come for the meeting, they don't make coffee and tea. because you are there to attend the meeting, to give your input and to
Quite
listen
right.
to what is the discussion so that you can give your opinion and so on and so forth. Yeah, and when only you are in power, then I could enforce affirmative actions. If I'm not in power, I can't enforce affirmative actions. You see? So when I was in power, I managed to. I said at all level, I must have 30% women participation and so on and so forth. So when you talk about democracy, you have to also consider these aspects of life, because just now this afternoon I just talked about discrimination, double standards between the US imposing their standards on us, Malaysia, in regards to the palm oil. So democracy has to be, has also to take consideration the lifestyle and the situation, and the terms cannot be the same across the world.
Right.
Because different community have different lifestyle. Right?
One size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, that's right. So they have to consider that, and they have to give allowance for the differences that we have in the different region of the world, actually. So I can start with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Very valuable insights about, again, your personal view about the role that women need to play in making democracy inclusive and sustainable. So that takes us to Professor Mahbubur Rahman. And again, as a veteran analyst and social scientist, right now we are quite fortunate to be speaking after the monsoon revolution on August 5th. But one of the key reasons why this monsoon revolution took place was because we had roughly around 15 years of non-inclusive governance. We had 15 and a half, or broadly 16 years of increasingly autocratic and repressive rule. So what do you think went wrong in case of the political setup, where, though again the former government of Army League under Sheikh Hasina was elected through relatively fair elections, again, why did this backsliding take place in Bangladesh's perspective? And what lessons can we draw from? Next 3 to 4 minutes, Professor.
Dr. Abbasi. As I was listening to Datuk Zuraida, that was one aspect where Malaysia is facing the challenges. And actually, same happens in other parts of the world. But in Bangladesh specifically, during the last 15 and a half years, what we have seen that a monopolization of participation by the incumbent. The democracy speaks for pluralism. Democracy speaks for alternate ways to look into the power, exercising the power, and at the end of the day, it is the people who make the ultimate decision. However, in Bangladesh, what happens, in 2008 election, when Awami League came to power, they actually came to power through a caretaker government-run election. That was meant for ensuring free and fair election. It was an excellent system that was working in Bangladesh, and there are 4 elections took place under that caretaker government
from 91 onwards.
From 91 onward, which was considered to be the comparatively much fair election in the entire period of Bangladesh independence, post-independence history. However, what Awami League regime of Sheikh Hasina did after coming to power, she manipulated and played the game in order to change the caretaker government system. That created the evils, all the problems. Why? Because she made sure that the opposition parties will not compete, will not get the equal opportunity to contest the election. Even though she says that I am open, anybody can join the election, but what she did, say opposition parties were not given the space to even have public meeting. The opposition leaders were arrested left and right without showing any causes. At one point, it was known that the police used to intimidate people, interesting way, that they used to take people into custody without any charges whatsoever. Then they used to decide how this guy can be shown arrested. And police officer said, let me say in Bangla, then in English, he would say, Akasher joto tara, pulisher toto dhara. The number of stars in the sky is equal to the number of the rules that police has. So police can show anybody arrested
So
under
lack
the
of
pretext.
check and balances is a key hindrance to democratic practices.
Definitely. And the free, fair election. Number two, the accountability of the executive. Number three, the plurality. Number four, those who are the referees. Referees means judiciary. Referees means the freedom of media. They have to make sure that the play is fair. It is not manipulated. But all these were made incapable, impossible, which created a monopolization of power on the part of the incumbent.
Thank you, Professor. We will come back to on this very, what would I say, somber assessment, and we will pick it up. So moving on to the Datuk Zahura. Now, over here, one of the things that we would really like to know is what is the current status of women in Malaysian politics, not only in the form of their right to exercise votes, which is there all around the world, wherever a degree of democracy exists, but in terms of political representation, not only in your former party, but across parties. So that will be an interesting insight for our viewers.
Yes, I wanted to touch when Prof was mentioning about politically, the political aspect of parties around the world, for that matter in Malaysia. Politics is a man's game, basically. So the position in the structure of the party set up is always being led by men. So there are not women there. So because if we have women there, I think probably there's more women to be able to have a chance to participate. So that's what happened in our country because, after 60 over years of independence, we are accessible to education, we are accessible to medical, we are accessible to a workforce. So all these are easily accessible for you. There's no discrimination at all. But come to politics participation, we are very low. We don't touch even 10% of women in parliament. So that was very, very low and that was very bad. Okay. Then what happened was the political structure is such that because the women are, I think also in Bangladesh, also because when the campaigning for election is the women who goes out to
garner votes
to get campaign
to rally the support.
So there come a time that I, as a women leader in my situation, where I encourage the women to contest, to take mainstream position. It's not the women's wing, the mainstream position. That's where you are involved in decision making, and you can go up and hold position. So much so that I was successful to bring out at least 19 women division leaders. Not the wing, it's the division leaders. Yeah, the mainstream. Yeah. So this is an achievement because there's no party in my country that managed to do that. So, but the political structure is such that the man is there and the men will be buddy-buddy with their man counterpart and they will be put in position.
It's a man's world.
Yeah, it's a reward, whatever. So we have to be strong there in order to bring up this. So when I have the opportunity to hold that position, so I open up doors and I have policies and I have regulations that women has to be at all levels of position. Women have to have a chance to go as candidates for election. But still, I cannot manage to get the 30% participation for women. Even more, the winning seats also are not coming from the women's seat because they are not given the preference seats. So the hot seats also belong to the men. Okay. So all the that's given to the women. So, but however, I said, okay, we should try. That was my stand. But I was very proactive then. I designate seat for the women to go out early so that they can start working. But once I designate these seats to these women to go out, the guys will come and make noise. Oh no, why didn't come and let us, don't inform us, that kind of thing. And then they want to start doing work. So this is the situation in political parties where the women are being, I think, sidelined and they are not given the priority actually. So there must be affirmative action.
So are there any laws at present which entails that a certain percentage of seats
No,
should
we don't
be
have that.
given?
That's why I was trying to
I believe we used to
advocate.
have it in Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
I was trying to advocate whether we can have affirmative action. We have some quotas for women, designated 30 seats. 30% seats only for women contestant, and there's open door also for the open one. You see, so I wanted to do that, but I went to see the electoral board of the country. So say, oh, this is not our decision; it's the party decision. I said, no. I said, it's not this. We should be regulating it, right? The body of this electoral board of the country. But that was what they responded to me. But I think we should have only for women to come in to at least get 30%, but we have to have affirmative action. There's no way that we can do it on our own because the political structure is such, the political influence is such that man is always there, and then they will not give chance to women to become candidates, because I think they know the power that they will have when they become parliamentarian, and they can become ministers, whatever. So that's why they are very,
Thank you, Datuk Zuraida, because of that very candid discussion of the many hurdles that women face in Malaysia in general, and what is your opinion about this and what you want to do. Coming back to Professor Mahbub, well, you were talking about many of the deficiencies or the limitations and challenges where we saw that, again, some trappings of democracy which were present became atrophied. And over there, so at least on paper, we had progressive laws, for example, allowing female representation. So I believe 1/3 or representation, or 30% or something.
Actually, yeah, total we had 50.
Yeah, but 30% for each political party to go. But the problem was that, again, despite having progressive laws, because there was a democratic environment, so again, it really didn't mean much for female political empowerment. So, given the current reality of Bangladesh now, that the interim government is now undertaking reforms, now, which could be time-consuming, but then again, only time will tell, no pun intended, how long will it take, but we will have elections. So what are your suggestions, both from the Bangladeshi perspective and also from other countries which have made successful transition from more authoritarian states to more open, inclusive democracies? What would be 3 or 4 policy recommendations that you would like to give to make democracy more inclusive?
Thank you very much once again. Yes, we are at a transition. We are, I would say, a turning point in the history of Bangladesh. Right now, 6 commissions are working for reforms. And among those, all are important, but I would mention only 2. One is on election, another is on constitution. These 2 are extremely important in regards to ensuring democracy, quote-unquote, inclusivity in the society in terms of running the administration and getting representation from the people. In Bangladesh, the problem is actually not only the women participation is lagging behind, but I would say in all areas, no matter how progressive we claim we have been, in addition to electoral problems that we mentioned, if we look at the society at large, say democracy ensures inclusive institutions. It ensures the institutions which are going to look into everybody's participation. Those who are lagging behind in terms of anything. For example, in Malaysia, it's not only women, actually, in terms of ethnic representation, with all due respect to Datuk. So, the Bumiputra, they had a privilege over others. And I believe it was Anwar Ibrahim, and I liked his point. He started speaking for reformation, he started speaking for pluralism, and because the Indians, the Chinese origin, the ethnic people, he says that in order to ensure justice, you need to bring them into the process, ensure their participation as well. That was a revolutionary thing in the context of Malaysia. People used to have doubt about Anwar's future, his prospect of coming to power. But Anwar didn't compromise.
He probably, the one word that he was known as was reformacy.
Indeed.
So indeed.
I had an opportunity to talk to him in the United States, and a kind of discussion that we had, and I appreciated. You see, you had towering figure, another father figure, in Malaysian history. Dadu or daddy or granddaddy, whatever you call. But you see, Anwar was under his umbrella. Then Anwar came up. And today, in the last election, what we have seen, Anwar has become the really charismatic leader. And the person who was actually invited to speak at CGS conference, okay, in the inaugural session, you see, he lost his all the position or glory or reputation. Why? Because he did not live up to the challenge of the time. He did not speak for these reforms that Anwar spoke for. This is the same challenge, I would say, in Bangladesh right now. The new leadership. Indeed, right now we have an opportunity. We need to look into that. There should not be any scope of monopolization of power by any particular group. There should not be even monopolization of authority among these three branches of the government.
Executive, legislative,
yeah, exactly.
And judiciary.
See, the legislative body should not be just sitting and approving whatever wishes the executive has. They are there like good boy or good girls. Yes, in defense, sarcastically we say, in academia we say, dissent is blessing in the academia, but in defense, obedience is the main thing. The yes sir, fine sir, and very good sir.
Well,
but
each system has its own
way. However, democracy does not go this way.
Different.
Democracy ensures the right to dissent, to differ, and ensure that in the broader perspective, we all will contribute in our own way, in our own capacity. That brings us to this particular point that we need to have minimum consensus on certain fundamental issues. Yeah. Bangladesh today desperately needs that level of consensus on the fundamental rules of the game, whether it is in constitution or in electoral matters. If we can ensure that, of course there will be differences of opinion, but in a broader spectrum, we must have to have minimum consensus that we will abide by these rules. Nobody can go beyond, no matter how powerful that person is. Society must not allow this. The citizenry cannot accept this either.
You. On this note, we again go to Datuk Zuraida. Okay. So, we are also interested from Bangladesh's perspective, because as the professor had rightly pointed out, we are passing through an inflection point. So things can get better or things can get worse. Hopefully they'll get better. So, and there's a need for sustainable democratic reforms. And no democracy is perfect around the world. No system is perfect because it's a work in progress. Yeah. And it's the least of the worst possible alternative compared to autocracy and other systems. So it's always something which is in a constant state of flux. But from the Malaysian experience, what possible policy suggestions, if you would like to suggest, could be considered in Bangladesh's perspective from your, because we also know that Malaysia had also a long history of moving away from centralized rule to now the more raucous or for the more, what would I say, vibrant democratic culture that you have now. So what would be your suggestions for, or what would be your lessons that you could share with us?
Before that, I would just touch a little bit on what Prof mentioned just now, because I was with the pharmacy movement. This is my first political party when I was 40 years old. For 25 years, we were fighting for pharmacy until we won in 2008. And 2015, we took over. 2018, we become the government, right? So that is that now. But when you talk about pharmacy, there's so many things that you aspire to do, you dream to do, you see. But when you come to the actual government, it's not implementable. So this becomes an issue where you can't deliver your promises. So this is something that also we have to consider. But having said that, you were talking about what are the policies. I think what we need to do is that there must be affirmative action. But at the end of the day, the power that rules are the one who have to be sensitive in this situation, this inclusivity, whatever. When they are sensitive, then they always consider, oh, you should include this, you could include that. If they are not sensitive, they will not include. Because, for instance, we have women leaders who are in the top position in Malaysia. There's head of bank, national bank, head of the judiciary are women. But if they are not gender sensitive enough, they would not try to open up doors for the women themselves. Okay,
Right.
What more the man is even,
So gender sensitization is a key requisite for this.
Correct. And also, regards to this women participation in the government, I think we have to change the election system to have this affirmative action where we designate at least 30% of the seats for women candidates. If not, I don't think in coming 10 or 15 years we will be able to achieve that. But interestingly, Prof, I just want to ask you, because you are coming from that social science,
Right.
because if you see that Rwanda is a late democracy country, very late democracy, but they have 55% women participation in the cabinet, in the parliament. Why? My own analysis of that is, I think because when Rwanda wants to get their independence, it's the women who goes out to on the street and whatever, and therefore they are the one who become the leaders in the country. That was my assessment. So probably you have some views on this. How did this late democracy, they have more women in their parliament than us? We're so forward, but we don't get the numbers.
Yes,
Let me
please,
take
you
this
can respond.
opportunity to corroborate what Datuk Zuraida mentioned. Actually, interesting thing in Bangladesh today during the July uprising is a female students came forward in a much bigger number than what happened in the past. And among these top coordinators, even the female participation is there. And it's not that only they just showed up, they actually participate in decision making. And this, our young generation, I would say the Gen Z generation, has shown us that the path towards progress entails the participation of women. That's really something which is
though I agree with you, Professor, on that part, but it also begs the question. I'm just giving it for context that yes, there was a large number of women, girls who were coming out. Actually, they were girls, actually, young women coming out. But even in terms of delivery, and this is the problem, even in the reformist government, we saw that the coordinators that were selected as advisors, 3 were selected eventually, all of them happened to be boys or men. So again, even over here, you have a degree of, I would say, inequitable representation. So again, I'm just giving you the context. Yes.
So well taken. But here I would suggest it's not only for the sake of showing
Numbers,
the number,
yeah,
the
yeah.
women,
No.
rather the
Yeah.
quality matters and the competence matters.
Yeah.
That's why if our bigger approach is that the more and more women will be coming
opportunities.
forward
Yeah.
and they'll get the opportunity, I think the greater participation, better participation, quality participation
Yes, that
can
is
be
important.
ensured.
Yes.
Just, I
Please,
would like to add a
please,
little bit
please,
on this,
by
because
all
when the
means.
reformasi movement comes in at that time, the women didn't go out, not that much. But during reformasi, there's a lot of women that's come out to the street with regards to this movement. During my era, it's the mothers, the mothers and those housewives are the ones who came out. So
Right.
they are not educated, whatever. But I hope this opportunity, the student leaders and women from the universities, they can make the change here in Bangladesh.
And also, even though it's very sensitive, but I would say religious interpretations should be there, which would accommodate the more women participation. We have 2 models, Taliban model, other is Malaysian or other Muslim countries model. So I won't say that nothing is
See, often I would like to also interject over here is that we often do not even, because again, the religion that we are talking about, the majority in Malaysia and Bangladesh is Islam, but we often do not learn lessons from Islam. The first Muslim convert was a woman, the Prophet's wife, Khadija Rahmatullah. The first martyr was again also Sumayya. And again, women also participated in the battles. Women also, and even in terms of Sufi tradition, Rabia Basri is considered the head of the hierarchy. So women have played a role traditionally.
Even in disseminating the knowledge.
Absolutely.
They're called hadith literature and my God, compilation and dissemination. The glorious tradition is ignored.
I know.
It's not talked about.
So I believe we are nearing the end of the interview. So I will give each of the panelists 30 seconds, your final thoughts on how to make democracy more sustainable, more inclusive, more harmonious.
So
Yes,
that's
Datuk.
I've mentioned earlier again, because actually their gender sensitization is very important, and they must understand the importance of women's role, because if the country can progress with the man 100%, with the women input, you can become 200% progressive. That is my
That's
thoughts
common
to that.
sense.
That's right. Yeah.
That's common
So
sense.
that means the country will develop in a more complete manner. That's what I'm aspiring to see. So, but the political system is the one that is hampering women from having that equal opportunity. Actually, yeah. So I hope there's a change in attitude or change of approach when it comes to this women party, because the women convention, the women convention they signed in Beijing, which most of the countries signed about 25 years ago, till today none has been able
It's
to.
the spirit of the
Yeah.
law is not there.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Point well taken. 30 to 40 seconds for you, Professor, and then
Okay.
we wrap up.
You see, democracy speaks for the participation of whom? Of citizens. Now, when we talk about the citizen, both male and female, citizens of diverse backgrounds, diverse ethnicity, religious backgrounds, all this stuff.
Right.
So, in order to ensure citizens' rights and opportunities, we need to be open in that sense. Let all the flowers bloom.
Good ones.
And then we can have progress towards sustainable development in terms of our rule of law, our administration, good governance, and a happy, inclusive society.
Thank you. Datuk Zuraida, Professor Mahbubur Rahman. Before wrapping up, 30 seconds for the seminal issues that were discussed. One is change in mindset, gender sensitization, and nationally concerted action to give women greater opportunities, more equitable opportunities. And there should be qualitative improvement in, again, making democracy inclusive. And also alongside this, there should be proper balance between the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary branch of power, so that power is not centralized and citizens of every hue are represented and no one privileged group rules over the others. So with these very important lessons, we hope that from the BOBC third iteration, A Fractured World, these lessons would help future generation to come up with a more sustainable and inclusive democracy. I thank you, both of you discussants, and for your valuable time, and I bid you farewell.